Okay, once you have your sauce ready to go, now it's time to prepare the cooking of it. And I'm just going to use the same pot that I used to boil the water and peel the tomatoes in. I'm going to make the beginnings of the sauce in it. And what you'll do is just get yourself a wooden spoon, some olive oil, and again, always use extra virgin olive oil. I like the Italian versions. Buy it if you can in the can to protect it from light and so it doesn't lose all of its flavor and antioxidant, and cold pressed, or get it in a dark bottle. So what you're going to do is you're going to pour some in the pot. I'm going to cook the sauce in here, so I'm going to start right here with heating the olive oil to just the point where it's sizzling. Then I'm going to put the garlic and the onions in and saute them lightly. Be very careful not to overcook your garlic because it will be bitter and it will ruin your sauce. So it's better to err on the side of low temperature and just watch it, and when you just see that it's starting to get just light golden, you put your sauce right in. You don't want to take a chance in overcooking your garlic because that is the key to a sauce. And when you make a tomato sauce with olive oil, you're actually enhancing your body's ability to absorb that wonderful cancer-fighting agent that I talked to you about, the lycopene. So you can be generous with your olive oil. It's very healthy for you. Breaks up the acidity of the tomatoes. And just, wait till that heats up. I can even add more than that. And again, I do everything by look. So I'm looking at that and think it's about 1/4 cup. You can add more if you like. And as soon as I see that that's getting a little heated, I'm going to put in the garlic and the onions, and I'm going to lightly saute them. I'm pretty happy with how the garlic and onions look. You can see that. I'm hoping that you can see that. It's still light colored. It's not overcooked. It's cooked nicely. And now it's time to quickly add the sauce. And you just pour it right in. And be careful because it does splash. As you notice, I put on my apron to save myself from getting covered in tomato sauce. And then I had a little extra sauce and adding that right in there. And then you just stir it around and mix the garlic in nicely and the onions with the tomato. And what you can do if you want to make it thicker, just add maybe 2 cans of tomato paste, 2 small cans of tomato paste to it. I want to make a little bit more tomato sauce. I'm going to add a can of, I've got here 2 DeRosso crushed tomatoes with basil. Don't use unsalted tomatoes, puree or crushed tomatoes, whatever you use, because it won't have enough flavor for you. Remember, you have no salt in here, so you're going to be adding salt to give flavor to the tomatoes. That's how we bring out the real tomatoey flavor with salt. And that's to taste. That's what's the beauty of making your own sauce. And I'm just going to pour that right in. And that's about as much as I can put into this pot without anything bubbling over. So we're going to let this simmer now. That's the key. A homemade sauce has to simmer for quite a while. I usually simmer it sometimes 2 hours. I let it on very low heat. Just let it simmer at least an hour and a half. Before you can put your ingredients in, or before I do, I always let it boil and start skimming the foam off the top. And this is what it looks like. If you come over here and you can look at the pot, see there's a foam that forms on the top of the sauce. Let me just turn the light on for you so you can see. And I'll just keep going over it and skimming off the foam. Once I see that it's boiling and there's no foam left that's coming to the surface, then I will begin putting in my ingredients. Okay, now it's time to put in your seasonings so that you can make your sauce taste great. And this is the fun part. So we have oregano, we have some ground black pepper, we have some sugar, because I always put in a little bit of sugar. It helps cut the acidic value of the sauce. So I'm not going to use a lot. Some people actually grind up carrots, and you can use carrots in your sauce too to do the same thing. So I'm going to put a teaspoon of sugar in. And again, this is to taste. So I'm going to start with the teaspoon. In fact, I'm going to put 2 in because it's a pretty big pot. I'm going to put 2 teaspoons of sugar in. I'm not afraid of using a little sugar, and neither should you. Then we've got some delicious red wine, and we're going to put red wine in because I love red wine in my sauce. I love wine in sauce. It really gives a nice flavor. So I just put a little bit in, and again, I'll change it. I'll taste it as I go along, and put a little more of this or a little more of that. We're not big on the pepper because my kids don't really like things too spicy, so just going to put a little bit in, just a dusting, because it does add a nice flavor. And then I'm going to get my fresh basil from the freezer, which I took from my plant, and since it grows pretty big, I freeze all along the way, and then as the winter comes and the plant's going to die, I always cut it all off and freeze the rest of it. So now it's best to take it right out of the freezer, and when it's really frozen like that, that's when you can crush it easily, right in. If you let it sit out for a second, you lose the ability to really crush it up. And I love crushing it up. These are basil leaves. You should smell how wonderful this is. There's nothing like the smell of fresh basil. It is the most wonderful smell. This really gives your sauce flavor. Sweetens it up too a little bit. It's just delicious. And I make sure I put enough in. Now, the final ingredients, and I'm going to wait to put them in because I'm going to let it cook and simmer for a while. But I usually will put in some Romano cheese, and I buy fresh grated, and I just put it into one of these containers. You know when you buy the Kraft Parmesan like this? This is also fresh grated, and I buy it in the deli section of the supermarket. And I just put it in these containers, and I keep it in this container because it's easy to sprinkle. So I have Parmesan cheese and Romano cheese, and I'm going to put that into taste as well as some salt, and we should be good to go. Actually, there's one more thing, and I love oregano, but you can't use too much. If you use too much, it may make it a little bitter. So you just want to add a little bit. I'm looking for the little, that side doesn't open. I'm just going to be careful in sprinkling it. So just put a little oregano in, gives it a beautiful taste, but not too much, like I said. You can go heavy with the basil, but not with the oregano. And after it's been, I'd say, cooking for about a half an hour, come in and taste it. See what you think. The longer it cooks and simmers, the better it is. And then you'll have the salt is your last thing, and you'll simmer it a little bit more after that. You really want to have the salt taken in by the sauce. It really brings out that tomatoey taste. And then again, the Parmesan and the Romano, and then you should be good to go. If you've got favorite things you like to put in your sauce, then that would be the point where you throw it in. Let it simmer now. I'm going to put the top on it, clean up, because I have quite the cleanup to do, and then I'll come back, taste it, see if I need any more wine or any more of the other things that you saw me put in before I put the final salt touch to it. And we're careful with salt in our family because, of course, too much salt causes water retention, high blood pressure, so we're always careful just to use enough to make it taste right, but not enough that it's going to harm you. So anyway, I hope you enjoy this video on how to make your own homemade tomato sauce with fresh tomatoes. And as the year progresses and you can't get fresh tomatoes, go ahead and use the Tuttoroso crushed tomatoes or tomato sauce and create your own. You can use, of course, the tomato puree and then the tomato paste. Add your olive oil, your garlic, and make it yourself. It's better than buying the ones in the jar. You'll really enjoy them, and you can make a lot more at a less cost too. So don't forget to subscribe because I have lots more to come. And thanks again for viewing. I really appreciate it. Okay, bye now.